Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Defiance, watching the stars through the large window. The ship moved slowly through space near the edge of human territory. It was a routine patrol mission, nothing special. Jake had done this same route dozens of times before. The year was 2387, and humans had built homes on many worlds across the galaxy. Ships traveled between the planets, bringing supplies and people to new colonies. Life was good for most humans. The galaxy seemed peaceful. "Captain, we're getting strange readings," said Lieutenant Amy Walsh from her station. She looked worried as she checked her instruments again. "There's something big coming toward us. Really big." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The readings showed massive objects moving through space at incredible speed. They were much larger than any human ship he had ever seen. "How many?" he asked. "At least 20 ships, sir. Maybe more. They're not using any technology we recognize." Amy's voice was tight with fear. The main screen suddenly filled with light. A ship appeared in front of them that was 10 times larger than the Defiance. Its hull was black metal with strange purple lines running across it. The ship looked alien and dangerous. "This is Captain Morrison of the human vessel Defiance," Jake said into his communication device. "Please identify yourself." A cold voice answered in perfect English. "I am High Commander Zelthara of the Zephyrian Empire. You will listen carefully, human. Your species has been judged and found wanting." Jake felt his heart beat faster. This was first contact with an alien race, but it didn't feel like the peaceful meeting humans had always hoped for. "What do you want?" he asked. "Your submission," the alien replied. "The Zephyrian Empire now claims all human worlds and colonies. You have 30 of your days to surrender completely. Your leaders will bow before us, your technology will become ours, your people will serve us." "And if we refuse?" Jake asked, though he already feared the answer. "Then you will all die." The communication ended. Jake stared at the alien ship, trying to understand what had just happened. In less than 5 minutes, everything had changed. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy, and their new neighbors wanted to make them slaves. "Sir, we're receiving similar reports from ships across the sector," said Communications Officer Dan Peters. "Alien vessels have appeared near Earth, Mars, and at least 12 colony worlds. They're all giving the same message." Back on Earth, Admiral Lisa Rodriguez sat in the emergency meeting room at military headquarters. The reports coming in were all the same. Alien ships had appeared everywhere at once. They were huge, advanced, and hostile. President Ryan Carter looked tired as he read the reports. "How is this possible? Our deep space sensors never detected them approaching." "Their technology is far beyond ours," admitted Dr. Nathan Brooks, the head of weapons research. "Our best scientists are studying the sensor data now, but early reports suggest they can move through space in ways we don't understand." "What about our defenses?" asked Colonel Amy Phillips, the military's top strategist. "That's the worst part," Admiral Rodriguez said grimly. "They demonstrated their power at New Denver Colony. They disabled our entire defense grid without firing. A shot just turned everything off like flipping a switch. 50,000 people are completely helpless." The room fell silent. New Denver was one of humanity's proudest achievements, a thriving world with advanced technology and strong defenses. If the aliens could disable it so easily, what chance did other colonies have? "Show them the footage," Admiral Rodriguez said to her aide. The wall screen displayed images from New Denver. Massive alien ships floated above the cities like dark clouds. Human defense platforms hung dead in space, their lights out and weapons silent. People in the streets looked up at the alien vessels with fear and confusion. "They're not attacking," observed Colonel Phillips. "They're just waiting." "Because they expect us to surrender," President Carter said. "They think showing their power will be enough to make us give up." Dr. Brooks cleared his throat nervously. "There might be another option. Project files I've been working on in secret. Weapons programs that were deemed too dangerous for normal use." "What kind of weapons?" Admiral Rodriguez asked. "The kind that could level entire planets," Dr. Brooks replied quietly. "We called them Solar Flare, Quantum Storm, and Planet Cracker. They were theoretical designs too destructive to ever build. And now? President Carter asked. Now we might not have a choice. Back in space, Captain Morrison watched more alien ships arrive. The Zephyrians were moving their fleet into position around every human world. It was a show of force designed to terrify and intimidate. Captain, incoming message from Earth Command, reported Lieutenant Walsh. Admiral Rodriguez appeared on the screen. Jake, you're to return to Earth immediately. We're recalling all ships. The aliens have given us 30 days to decide humanity's future. What are we going to tell them, Admiral? Jake asked. I don't know yet, but I know what we're not going to tell them. The alien fleet continued to gather. More ships arrived every hour, each one larger and more intimidating than the last. High Commander Zelthara watched the human worlds from her flagship, confident that these primitive creatures would see reason and submit. She had conquered dozens of species using this same method: display overwhelming force, demand submission, and wait for the inevitable surrender. Most races gave up within days. The few that resisted were quickly crushed. Humans would be no different. But as reports came in from across human space, Zelthara began to notice something unusual. Instead of panic and surrender, human ships were moving toward their home worlds. Military forces were gathering rather than dispersing. Civilian populations were being evacuated to shelters rather than sent out to beg for mercy. High Commander, reported her communications officer, the humans are requesting more time to consider our terms. Denied, Zelthara said coldly. They have 30 days, not one more. On Earth, President Carter made his decision. Dr. Brooks, begin immediate production of your experimental weapons. Admiral Rodriguez, prepare the fleet for war. Colonel Phillips, start evacuation procedures for all civilian populations. Sir, said Colonel Phillips carefully, are we really going to fight them? Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. President Carter looked out the window at the alien ships hanging in Earth's sky like vultures. Maybe we can't win, but we're human beings. We don't kneel to anyone. The countdown had begun. In 30 days, humanity would give their answer to the Zephyrian Empire. But that answer was already being prepared in secret laboratories and military bases across human space. The aliens had made one critical mistake. They had assumed that showing their power would make humans afraid. Instead, it had made them angry. President Ryan Carter stood before the cameras in the White House. His face was calm, but his hands shook slightly as he prepared to speak to all of humanity. Behind him, through the window, alien ships could be seen floating in the sky above. Washington, my fellow humans, he began, his voice steady and strong. 30 days ago, we were given a choice. We were told to kneel or die. Today, I give our answer. He paused and looked directly into the camera. We do not kneel. We do not yield. We fight. The message went out across all human worlds instantly. On Mars, in the asteroid colonies, on distant planets at the edge of space, humans heard their leader's words. Some cried, some cheered. All understood what it meant. War was coming. High Commander Zelthara watched the human broadcast from her flagship. She had expected fear and surrender. Instead, she saw defiance. Foolish creatures, she said to her officers. They choose death over wisdom. Begin the invasion. Show them what resistance costs. The attack started at dawn on Earth. Alien ships moved down from orbit like deadly angels. Their weapons fired beams of pure energy that cut through human battleships like knives through paper. In the first hour, half of Earth's defense fleet was destroyed. Captain Jake Morrison led his ship into battle near Jupiter's moons. The USS Defiance fired everything it had at the alien vessels, but their weapons bounced off enemy shields like raindrops. Around him, other human ships were dying in brilliant flashes of light. All ships, this is Morrison, he called over the radio. We can't match their firepower, but we can hurt them. Ram them if you have to. Make every shot count. Commander Steve Williams watched his entire squadron get destroyed in seconds. His ship was the only one left, badly damaged and losing air. This is Williams, he said over the radio. My ship is finished, but I'm not done fighting. He aimed his crippled vessel at the nearest alien cruiser and pushed the engines to maximum power. The explosion when Williams hit the enemy ship lit up space for miles. The alien cruiser broke apart, its pieces spinning into the dark. It was the first alien ship humans had destroyed, but the cost was terrible. On the other side of the battle, Captain Betty Johnson saw Williams' sacrifice. Her own ship was damaged, but she could still fight. For Williams, she whispered and followed his example. Her destroyer smashed into another alien vessel, taking both ships out in a ball of fire. The aliens had expected easy victory. Instead, they found humans who fought like wild animals, never giving up even when facing certain death. Every alien ship that was destroyed cost them time and resources they had not planned to lose. On Mars, General Chris Martinez was fighting a different kind of battle. Alien soldiers had landed near the capital city, and his troops were trying to hold them back while civilians escaped to underground shelters. "Sir, we can't stop them," reported one of his officers. "Their armor is too strong, and their weapons cut right through our defenses." "We don't have to stop them," Martinez replied, firing his rifle at advancing alien soldiers. "We just have to slow them down. Every minute we buy saves more lives." The fighting in the streets of New Moscow was brutal. Human soldiers used everything they could find as weapons. They threw grenades, fired rockets, and when those ran out, they fought with knives and bare hands. The aliens had better technology, but humans fought with desperate courage. Lieutenant Tony Rodriguez led a small team of Marines in a suicide mission. They managed to board a damaged alien ship that had crashed near the spaceport. "Look for anything useful," he told his men. "Weapons, computers, anything we can use against them." They found alien navigation computers and communication devices before the ship exploded. The information they gathered would prove valuable, but Tony and his team died getting it. Their sacrifice gave human scientists their first real look at alien technology. Meanwhile, deep under the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Nathan Brooks worked frantically in his secret laboratory. The experimental weapons he had designed were almost ready. His assistant, Dr. Helen Carter, ran tests on alien shield technology using data from the crashed ships. "I think I found something," Helen said excitedly. "Their shields block energy and physical attacks, but they can't stop certain quantum frequencies. If we modify our weapons to use these frequencies, we might be able to hurt them." "How long do you need?" Dr. Brooks asked. "Give me 12 hours, Helen replied. Above ground, the battle for Earth continued. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez commanded the defense from Luna Base, watching her ships fight and die against impossible odds. But she noticed something important. The FOI, aliens were taking longer to win than they had planned. "They expected us to break after the first attack," she told her staff. "But we're still fighting. Every hour we hold out costs them more than they wanted to spend." At the same time, Commander Paul Davis led a secret mission to capture alien communication signals. His team of intelligence officers worked to break the enemy's codes and learn their plans. What they discovered was terrifying. Admiral Davis reported over secure communication. "We've decoded some of their transmissions. They're not here to rule us. They want to strip mine our worlds and kill everyone. Our planets have something called trilithium that they need for their ships." The news spread quickly through human command. The aliens didn't want slaves or tribute. They wanted genocide. Every human world would be emptied of life and turned into a mining operation. President Carter received the intelligence report while hiding in a bunker beneath the White House. The building above had been damaged in the alien attack, but he was still alive and still in command. "They want to wipe us out completely," he said to his advisors. "There's no room for surrender or negotiation. It's fight or die." "Sir," said Admiral Rodriguez over the communication link, "Dr. Brooks says his weapons will be ready soon, but he's warning us that using them will change everything. They're designed to destroy entire planets." President Carter was quiet for a long moment. Outside the bunker, he could hear the sounds of battle as human and alien forces fought in the streets of Washington. The fate of humanity hung in the balance. "If they want to wipe us out," he said finally, "then we'll make sure they pay the highest price possible. Authorize Dr. Brooks to deploy his weapons. If we're going to die, we'll take as many of them with us as we can. The order went out across human space. Secret weapons facilities began final preparations for humanity's most desperate gamble. The aliens had superior technology and numbers, but humans had something else: the willingness to destroy everything rather than surrender. High Commander Zelthara received reports of continued human resistance with growing anger. "How are these primitive creatures still fighting?" she demanded. "Increase the attack. I want their homeworld burning within the day." But in the depths of space, human ships were already moving to strike back. Captain Morrison had gathered the survivors of the Jupiter battle and was planning a counterattack. His ships carried new weapons based on the alien technology that Tony Rodriguez had died to capture. The real war was just beginning. Dr. Nathan Brooks stood in his underground laboratory, looking at the weapon that could change everything. The solar flare device was no bigger than a refrigerator, but it contained the power of a small star. His hands shook as he made the final adjustments. "Are you sure about this?" asked Dr. Helen Carter. She had been working beside him for 3 days straight, helping to prepare humanity's secret weapons. "Once we use this, there's no going back. They want to kill every human in the galaxy," Brooks replied. "We don't have a choice anymore." Above them, the war continued to rage. Alien ships had taken control of Earth's orbit, but human resistance on the ground was stronger than expected. Every city had become a battlefield. Every street was contested. The first solar flare device launched from a hidden base on Titan, one of Saturn's moons. Captain Jake Morrison watched from his ship as the small weapon flew toward the main alien fleet. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to catch fire. The artificial star that erupted in the middle of the alien formation was brighter than the sun. 3 massive alien ships simply vanished, turned into expanding clouds of superheated gas. The other alien vessels scattered in panic, their shields useless against the incredible heat. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Amy Walsh from her station on Morrison's ship. "We actually hurt them." But the victory came with a terrible price. The solar flare had destroyed everything within 100,000 miles, including 2 human cargo ships that had been too close to the blast. The weapon was as dangerous to friends as it was to enemies. High Commander Zelthara felt fear for the first time in centuries. She watched her 3 best ships die in an instant, killed by a weapon she had never seen before. "How is this possible?" she asked her science officer. "These humans are supposed to be primitive." "Their weapon appears to create artificial stellar cores," the officer replied nervously. "We have nothing that can defend against such power." Zelthara's fear quickly turned to rage. "If they want to use weapons of mass destruction, then we will respond in kind. Prepare the world ender. We will make an example of their home planet." On Earth, Admiral Lisa Rodriguez coordinated the human counterattack from her command center on the moon. The success of the solar flare had given human forces new hope, but she knew the aliens would respond with even greater violence. "All ships, this is Admiral Rodriguez," she broadcast. "The enemy is going to hit back hard. Morrison, take your strike force and hit their supply lines. We need to keep them off balance." Captain Morrison's small fleet had been equipped with new quantum torpedoes based on alien technology. Unlike human weapons, these could actually penetrate alien shields. His ships moved through space like wolves hunting a herd, picking off isolated enemy vessels. The war's turning point came at Proxima Station, humanity's farthest outpost. Admiral Rodriguez had made a desperate decision to use the space station as a weapon. As the alien Grand Fleet approached, she ordered the station's fusion reactors to overload. "All personnel, evacuate immediately," she commanded. "This is going to get very bad very quickly." The explosion when Proxima Station died created a massive gravitational hole in space. The alien fleet, moving too fast to change course, was pulled into the anomaly. Ship after ship disappeared into the swirling darkness, crushed by forces beyond imagination. Captain Lisa Adams was flying her fighter through the chaos, trying to reach the alien flagship before it escaped. Her small ship dodged pieces of destroyed vessels and waves of deadly radiation. "This is Adams," she called over the radio. "I'm going for their command ship." "Lisa, Don't do it. Morrison's voice crackled through the static. You'll never make it back. Someone has to try, she replied. Her fighter dove toward the alien flagship, missiles ready to fire. She managed to hit the ship's main communication array before her fighter was destroyed by defensive fire. The alien fleet was now blind and scattered. On the ground, Marine Colonel Jack Thompson was leading Operation Firestorm, simultaneous attacks on alien occupation forces across 6 worlds. His troops had learned to use captured alien weapons against their former owners. The sight of human soldiers carrying alien plasma rifles became a symbol of humanity's refusal to give up. Move fast, hit hard, and don't let them group up, Thompson told his battalion commanders. These weapons can cut through their armor, but only if we get close enough to use them. The fighting was brutal. Human Marines charged across open ground, under alien fire, knowing that many would die but that some would reach their targets. Every alien position they captured gave them more weapons and equipment to use against the enemy. Dr. Helen Carter completed her work on the quantum storm generator in her laboratory beneath the Alps. The device could break apart matter at the atomic level, turning solid objects into their basic particles. When they tested it on Europa, Jupiter's moon, it created a crater 50 miles wide where the alien fortress had been. The weapon works perfectly, she reported to President Carter, but the destruction is total. Everything in the target area just stops existing. News of human victories began to spread across the galaxy. Other species that had been conquered by the aliens started to pay attention. The Andromedans, who had been slaves for 300 years, began secret planning for their own rebellion. Didir, Centauri Collective, a group of trading worlds, stopped sending tribute to the alien empire. Their leader sent a message to human forces. If the humans can fight back, so can we. Across the galaxy, the alien empire began to crack. Species that had lived in fear for centuries saw that the mighty aliens could be beaten. Rebellions started. On dozens of worlds as slaves and conquered peoples rose up against their masters. High Commander Zelthara watched her empire begin to fall apart. Reports came in every hour of new rebellions and lost territories. The humans had done more than just fight back. They had inspired others to fight as well. Prepare the world ender, she ordered her weapons officer. If I cannot rule this galaxy, then I will cleanse it of all life, starting with the human homeworld. The world ender was the most feared weapon in the alien arsenal. It could crack a planet's core and turn an entire world into an expanding cloud of debris. It had been used only 3 times in galactic history, each time destroying billions of lives. But as the weapon charged up to fire, Zelthara made a discovery that filled her with dread. Long-range sensors detected massive energy signatures coming from human space. The humans were preparing weapons even more powerful than the ones they had already used. High Commander, reported her science officer, the energy readings suggest they have weapons that could destroy not just worlds but entire star systems. Zelthara realized she had made a terrible mistake. She had thought the humans were just another primitive species to be conquered. Instead, she had awakened something that might destroy them all. The final phase of the war was about to begin, and both sides were preparing to use weapons that could burn the galaxy itself. The alert came at 3 a.m, Earth time. Captain Jake Morrison was sleeping in his quarters when the emergency alarm woke him up. He rushed to the bridge of his ship and saw something that made his blood run cold. Sir, long-range sensors are picking up massive energy signatures, reported Lieutenant Amy Walsh. Her voice was shaking. It's coming from the direction of New Siberia colony. New Siberia was home to 12 million people. It was one of humanity's most successful colonies, with green fields and growing cities. Families lived there in peace, raising children and building new lives among the stars. Morrison watched the sensor readings change as something terrible happened 200 light-years away. The energy signature spiked beyond anything they had ever seen, then suddenly went dark. Complete silence from a world that should have been full of radio signals and life. "Get me Admiral Rodriguez," Morrison ordered. The Admiral appeared on screen looking tired and worried. Behind her, Morrison could see other officers running around with panic in their eyes. "Jake, you've seen the readings? What happened to New?" Siberia? Morrison asked, though he feared he already knew. The aliens use something called a world ender. The entire planet is gone. Not destroyed. Gone. Where there used to be a world, there's now just empty space and radiation. Morrison felt sick. 12 million people had just died in an instant. Men, women, children, all turned to dust by an alien weapon beyond imagination. How many more of those things do they have? We don't know, Rodriguez replied. But we have to assume they'll use them again. The president has authorized our final option. Morrison knew what that meant. Dr. Brooks' planet cracker devices were ready for deployment. These weapons could destroy not just planets, but entire star systems. If humanity was going to die, they would make sure the aliens paid the ultimate price. I'm sending you coordinates for 3 target systems, Rodriguez continued. Zephyr Prime, Vorthak, and Hegemony Station. These are the heart of their empire. If we can destroy these worlds, we cut the head off the snake. The mission would require 3 separate strike teams operating simultaneously. Morrison would lead the attack on Zephyr Prime, the alien homeworld. Commander Sarah Phillips would target Vorthak, their military headquarters. Colonel Chris Martinez would hit Hegemony Station, where they built their weapons and ships. Each team carried a planet cracker device. Unlike the solar flare weapons, these created chain reactions that could spread across entire star systems. They were the most dangerous weapons humanity had ever built, capable of destroying everything within dozens of light years. Remember, Dr. Brooks had warned them during the briefing, once these devices activate, there's no stopping them. They'll consume everything in the target system and possibly spread to neighboring ones. Morrison's team launched from a hidden base near Pluto. His ship, now called the Vengeance, carried volunteers who knew they probably wouldn't return. Captain Betty Foster piloted the escort vessel that would clear the way to their target. Jake, Foster said over the radio as they approached alien space, I want you to know it's been an honor serving with you. Same here, Betty, Morrison replied. Let's go finish this. The alien defenses around Zephyr Prime were the strongest in their empire. Hundreds of ships protected the home world, along with orbital weapons platforms and energy shields that could stop entire fleets. But the human strike team had advantages the aliens didn't expect. Foster's ship went first, drawing enemy fire while Morrison's team slipped past the outer defenses. Her vessel was hit dozens of times, but she kept flying, giving Morrison the time he needed to reach the planet's surface. This is Foster. Her voice crackled through the static. I'm hit bad, but I'll keep them busy as long as I can. Morrison watched Foster's ship explode in a ball of fire as alien weapons finally found their mark. She had died buying him precious minutes to complete the mission. He would not let her sacrifice be meaningless. On the planet's surface, Lieutenant Dan Cooper led a ground team to plant the planet cracker in the world's core. They fought through waves of alien defenders, using captured weapons and human determination to reach their target deep underground. Sir, we're taking heavy casualties, Cooper reported, but we're almost at the core. Give me 10 more minutes. Morrison's ship fought desperately above the planet, trying to keep the aliens distracted while Cooper's team finished their work. Enemy ships swarmed around him like angry insects, but he kept firing, drawing their attention away from the ground mission. At the same time, similar battles were happening at Vorthak and Hegemony Station. Human teams fought against impossible odds to plant their world-ending weapons. Many died in the effort, but they never stopped trying. Dr. Helen Carter, monitoring the mission from Earth, made a horrible discovery. Her calculations showed that the planet crackers were more powerful than anyone had realized. The quantum reactions they created could spread much farther than expected. Admiral Rodriguez, she called urgently, the cascade effect is going to be much worse than we thought. If all 3 devices activate at once, the destruction could spread to hundreds of star systems. Including our own? Rodriguez asked. It's possible, Helen admitted. The quantum waves could reach as far as Earth itself. But it was too late to stop the mission. Cooper's team had reached the planet's core and was setting up the planet cracker. Similar reports came in from the other strike teams. The weapons were being armed simultaneously across 3 different star systems. High Commander Zelthera detected the human infiltration too late. Her sensors showed energy signatures deep within her home world that could only mean one thing. The humans had brought their ultimate weapon to her front door. "Impossible," she said. "How did they penetrate our defenses?" "They sacrificed everything to get here," her tactical officer reported. "Their ships fought to the death just to buy time for their ground teams." Zelthera realized she was facing an enemy unlike any her empire had ever encountered. These humans didn't just fight for victory, they fought for mutual destruction. They would rather die than surrender, and they would take their enemies with them. "Activate all world enders," she ordered desperately. "Target every human world. If we are to die, then so will they." Across the galaxy, alien ships began charging their planet-killing weapons. Earth, Mars, Luna, and every human colony became targets for immediate destruction. Both sides were now committed to a path that would end in the death of entire civilizations. Cooper's team finished arming the planet cracker just as alien soldiers broke through their defenses. "Device is armed and ready," he reported. "Activation in 60 seconds. Morrison tried to evacuate Cooper's team, but alien forces had surrounded the core facility. "Leave us," Cooper said over the radio. "Just make sure this thing works." The YOCA planet cracker activated exactly as designed. The quantum reaction began deep in Zephyr Prime's core, breaking apart matter at the atomic level. Within minutes, the planet began to tear itself apart from the inside out. Morrison's ship barely escaped as the alien homeworld died in a cascade of uncontrolled energy. Behind him, space itself seemed to catch fire as the quantum reaction spread beyond the planet to consume everything in the star system. But even as Morrison flew away from the destruction, he knew the aliens were striking back. Long-range sensors detected world-ender weapons heading toward human space. In a few hours, Earth itself would face the same fate as New Siberia. The final gamble had been played. Both civilizations had used their ultimate weapons. Now they could only wait to see which species would survive the fire they had unleashed upon the galaxy. The end of the galaxy began with light. From across the darkness of space, Captain Jake Morrison watched 3 star systems die at once. Zephyr Prime, Vorthak, and Hegemony Station didn't just explode, they simply stopped existing. Where planets and stars had been, now there was only empty darkness and waves of deadly energy spreading outward like ripples on a pond. "My God," whispered Lieutenant Amy Walsh. "What have we done?" The quantum cascade was worse than anyone had predicted. The 3 planet crackers had triggered a chain reaction that consumed everything within 50 light-years of each target. Billions of aliens died in seconds as their homeworlds unraveled at the atomic level. Entire solar systems became graveyards of twisted space and radiation. But the alien response was equally devastating. World-ender weapons struck human colonies across the galaxy. New Angeles, humanity's largest settlement outside Earth, died screaming as its core melted. Europa Station and the Titan shipyards followed. Their millions of inhabitants vaporized in moments of terrible fire. On Earth, President Ryan Carter stood in the deep bunker beneath the White House as alarms screamed around him. Through the thick walls, he could feel the ground shaking as alien weapons struck the planet's surface. The world ender targeting Earth had been partially deflected by Dr. Brooks's last desperate act, a planetary shield generator that cost him his life to activate. "Sir, we're getting reports from across the planet," said his aide, her voice breaking. "The shield held, but barely. Half of North America is uninhabitable. The radiation levels are off the charts." Carter looked at the screens showing the devastation. Cities had been turned to glass. Oceans boiled with radioactive steam. The planet that had given birth to humanity was dying, poisoned by weapons too terrible to understand. Admiral Lisa Rodriguez broadcast from Luna Command, her base now the only major human military installation still functioning. "All surviving ships, this is Rodriguez. Report your status." The responses came slowly, each one bringing news of loss and death. Of humanity's great fleet, fewer than 50 ships remained. Captain Morrison's vessel was one of the few that had survived the alien counterattack. "Admiral, this is Morrison. The Vengeance is operational, but we're detecting massive spatial distortions spreading from the target zones. The quantum cascade is still expanding. Rodriguez studied the sensor data with growing horror. The destruction wasn't stopping. The energy waves from the planet crackers continued to spread, consuming everything in their path. Star systems that had nothing to do with the war were being pulled into the growing voids of destroyed space. Dr. Helen Carter worked frantically in her damaged laboratory trying to find a way to stop the cascade. Her calculations showed that if the expansion continued, it could eventually consume thousands of star systems, including those with innocent species who had never been part of the conflict. "We have to try something," she told Admiral Rodriguez, over the crackling communication link. "The quantum reactions are feeding on themselves. At this rate, they'll spread across half the galaxy." Using the few remaining human ships, Helen attempted to deploy stabilization devices at the edge of the expanding destruction zones. Captain Morrison led the dangerous mission, flying into areas where space itself was breaking apart. Many ships were lost to the chaotic forces, but slowly the expansion began to slow. Years passed before the true scale of the devastation became clear. 17 worlds had been completely destroyed, wiped from existence as if they had never been. 43 star systems were partially damaged, their planets burned and lifeless. The death toll reached into the billions. Humans, aliens, and innocent species caught in the crossfire. The Zephyrian Empire collapsed overnight. Without their homeworlds and leadership, the various alien species that had been part of their empire declared independence. Some tried to rebuild. Others fell into civil war. Many simply scattered to the furthest edges of space trying to escape the memories of the war. Humanity fared little better. With Earth poisoned and most colonies destroyed, the survivors gathered on the few remaining habitable worlds. Morrison, now promoted to admiral, helped establish a new government among the scattered settlements. The old dreams of galactic expansion were gone, replaced by the simple hope of survival. President Carter lived long enough to see the first refugee ships arrive at the emergency colonies. His body was failing from radiation exposure, but he insisted on addressing the survivors one final time. His image, transmitted across human space, showed a dying man with eyes full of regret. "We told them we would not kneel," he said, his voice weak but clear. "We kept that promise. But in our refusal to submit, we became something terrible. We became the monsters we fought against." The aftermath of the war changed the galaxy forever. The regions where planets had been destroyed became known as the ash zones, areas of twisted space where no ship could safely travel. They served as monuments to the price of total war, visible reminders of what happened when two species chose mutual destruction over compromise. Admiral Rodriguez spent her remaining years establishing the Terran Reconciliation Authority. Human ships began working with former alien colonies, providing aid to refugees and helping rebuild damaged worlds. The species that had once demanded humanity's submission now asked for human protection from raiders and pirates. Dr. Helen Carter became the galaxy's leading expert on quantum stabilization. Her teams worked to heal the scars left by the planet crackers and restore life to damaged worlds. The technology of destruction slowly transformed into tools of healing and creation. Some humans couldn't accept the new reality. Commander Steve Williams, one of the few surviving original fleet officers, established the Memorial Fleet. These ships patrolled the dead zones, making sure no one disturbed the graves of worlds. Each vessel carried lists of every person who had died, human and alien alike, ensuring their names would not be forgotten. 20 years after the war ended, Admiral Morrison made a pilgrimage to the ruins of Zephyr Prime's star system, where, once a thriving civilization had built great cities and dreamed of empire, now there was only empty space and drifting debris. A small memorial station orbited in the darkness, tended by both human and alien volunteers. The memorial bore a simple message in a dozen languages. Here died pride. Here died worlds. Here died the children of two species who forgot that strength without wisdom is extinction. Morrison stood alone on the observation deck, looking out at the graveyard of stars. His hair was gray now, his face marked by years of carrying the weight of what humanity had done. The young captain who had first encountered the aliens was gone, replaced by an old man who understood the true cost of victory. "We won," he said to the darkness. But what did we really gain? The galaxy had learned to fear both humans and the vanished Zephyrians. Neither species was remembered as heroes or villains, but as warnings of what happened when pride and fear drove civilizations to unleash powers they could not control. In schools across 1,000 worlds, children learned about the Ash Wars, not as glorious battles but as the greatest tragedy in galactic history. The lesson was always the same. Sometimes the greatest strength is knowing when not to use your power, and the greatest victory is the war you choose not to fight. Humanity had refused to kneel, and in doing so, they had scorched their enemies, worlds to ash. But they had also burned something within themselves, their innocence, their dreams, and their belief that victory was always worth the price. The scars remained, burned into space and time itself, reminding all who saw them that when two species refuse to yield, even the stars themselves can die.